Catch Insidious The Red Door. The final chapter arrives exclusively in movie theaters July 7th.
Are you ready?
We're ready to forget the further, once and for all.
Welcome to WatchMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 things to remember before watching Insidious The Red Door.
When I was 10, I was in a coma.
For this list, we're looking at some important things to keep in mind going into the 5th installment in this terrifying horror franchise. Keep in mind that we will be discussing spoilers for previous entries. What do you hope to see behind the Red Door? Let us know in the comments below. Number 10. Where we left off. You'd think that you would need to watch all 4 previous films to be up to date. But since the 3rd and 4th entries are prequels, it's really Insidious Chapter 2 that we look to here.
I know what happened. I went into that place to get our son back, and something evil followed me and killed Elise.
Resolving the events of the first film, Chapter 2 saw the Lambert family reeling with the development of Patriarch Josh being possessed by a deceased serial killer named Parker Crane.
You have no idea how much you have wasted your life being afraid of the dead, because pretty soon, you're going to be one of them.
Thanks to some old friends and new, they're able to put Josh back in the driver's seat and do away with their spiritual tormentors. They seemingly get a happy ending, or as happy as it gets, when Josh and his son Dalton willingly have their memories erased to hopefully cut off their connection with the malevolent dimension known as the Further.
Are you ready?
We're ready. Ready to forget, once and for all. No more traveling, right?
This is the only world we want to be in.
Number 9. The plot.
My brain just been foggy past few years.
It's been 10 years since Chapter 2, both for us and the characters. Dalton is now college-aged and enrolled at an Ivy League university. Josh goes to drop him off at school, but remnants of the Further start to manifest in both of them. Through his artwork, Dalton starts to recall horrible memories that have long been suppressed.
I think these drawings could be clues from my past.
Instead of running from their literal demons, Josh and Dalton must instead confront them head-on, which means another trip into the Further to tamp down its influence on them once and for all.
They suppressed our memories, but I can still feel something following us.
There's only one way to find out.
Number 8. A father-son story.
All I ever wanted was to be a good dad.
Dalton.
Insidious The Red Door has been described very much as a father-son story, which is fitting seeing as how so much of the series hinges on Josh's and Dalton's abilities to travel, essentially spirit walk into the Further. However, whereas shared trauma can bring people together, the erasing of their memories seems to have had the opposite effect.
Why don't you drive Dalton to college? You still have a few weeks before your students show up, right? Just an idea to reconnect. I know it's been tough with you too.
Sure, a young adult spreading his wings can naturally distance himself from his father, but Josh and Dalton's general estrangement in the years since will only be another obstacle for them to overcome if they want to survive.
Did you ever try and get help?
I'm just trying to push through.
It sounds like The Red Door looks to be a very cathartic story, and we cannot wait to see how that plays out on screen. Number 7. The Red Door.
Sink deep into your memory and let's see what light can find.
With it being the subtitle for the whole movie, you're probably wondering what the Red Door is referring to. Well, even though it's in the title for this 5th entry, it's something that may be a staple of your nightmares already. Indeed, the Red Door appears in the first installment in the Further, specifically signifying the entrance to the lair of the lipstick face demon. That's right, essentially the title is teasing the return of one of horror's most terrifying figures, King of the Jump Scare.
What?
It's actually quite fitting, seeing as this sequel will be harkening back to the franchise's glory days. And honestly, it's been too long since we've seen old Lipstick Face, with him only appearing briefly at the ends of movies 3 and 4. Number 6. The Returning Cast. Legacy sequels have been something of a trend in recent years, and more often than not, they've been pretty satisfying. Insidious looks to be doing it the right way, bringing back the main cast of the first 2 films. In addition to Josh and Dalton actors Patrick Wilson and Ty Simpkins returning, so too will Rose Byrne as Lambert matriarch Renee.
There's so much you don't know, and I was too scared to tell you the truth.
but because no family reunion would be complete without him. Also returning is Andrew Astor as Dalton's little brother Foster.
Stop, Foster. Just go back to bed. You're gonna get us in trouble.
I'm not Foster.
It'll be interesting to see what the family dynamic looks like so many years later, with the kids practically all grown up. Number 5, The Return of Elise Rainier.
When you awaken the dead, the further you travel, the riskier your journey will become.
Sure, we could have added her to the last entry, but we think she deserves one of her own.
Why did you do that? Why would you do that to me when you know how I feel about that? Why?
For a supporting character who technically dies in the first installment, Elise has surprisingly become quite the franchise mainstay. Such is the on-screen talent of actor Lin Shaye, who's definitely gotten her flowers in the horror genre since the first Insidious. Indeed, we wouldn't want her to miss out on this one, having essentially led the last 2 installments, prequels though they were.
Tucker and I are going down to the fallout shelter.
Well, I get the death chamber. He gets Bible camp with the most beautiful girl on earth. That's not a democracy.
You're the only one I trust to go down there with me.
Don't patronize me, woman.
This time around, Elise will be popping up in archive form, helping out the Lamberts from beyond the grave. But who knows? Maybe we'll see her on the other side once again.
I wish I could say it's good to see you.
Number 4, Behind the Scenes Talent.
I feel like I'm getting closer to something. Or something's getting closer to me.
James Wan has since become one of the biggest names in horror since helming the first 2 Insidii, if he wasn't already. So, his continued presence on the producing side of things bodes well. Wan's longtime creative partner Lee Winnell is also on board, coming up with the story, having penned the first 4 installments.
The balance of light and dark is what we're after.
Already having the core creative team back is great to hear, but the pedigree doesn't end there. The horror filmographies of producers Oren Peli and Jason Blum practically speak for themselves, the latter being of the mega studio Blumhouse. Perhaps you've heard of them? Number 3, Patrick Wilson's directorial debut. The big story behind the scenes, though, is that of franchise star Patrick Wilson. Wilson has amassed quite the legacy in the horror genre himself, his work in Insidious being a major highlight.
This has gone too far.
No, please. Josh, you said that you would give her a chance.
No, I have given her a chance, honey, but I can't have somebody coming into our home and telling us that the reason our son is in a coma is because his soul is floated off somewhere in another dimension.
Suffice it to say, he knows his way around a film set. Plenty of actors have had great success making the transition to behind the camera in recent years, and we're sure Wilson will be no exception. Of course, we're sure pulling double duty as both director and star cannot have been easy. But if there's anyone up to the task, it's him. We look forward to seeing how this might springboard him into future directing gigs as well. Number 2, upcoming spinoff. It's been 5 years since the last Insidious, but thankfully, you likely won't have to wait long until the next one.
You helped my family a long time ago, when my son was just a boy. And now the same thing is happening to my grandson.
Dalton.
How did you know his name?
It's what I do.
Just a couple of months prior to the release of The Red Door, news broke that the franchise would be getting a spin-off film titled Thread, an Insidious tale.
There are other entities who are malevolent and have a more insidious agenda.
Plot details are scarce at this time, but it's set to be written and directed by Jeremy Slater, with James Wan again returning as producer. Not only that, but also announced our leads Mandy Moore and Kumail Nanjiani. We'll just have to wait and see how it all connects.
She's psychic. We're a sidekick.
Where's that?
She's psychic. We're a sidekick.
Sorry, I'm not understanding.
Yeah, never mind.
Number 1, The End of the Saga. While the future of Insidious looks bright, it should be recognized that The Red Door also marks the end of an era.
I'm seeing crazy stuff.
It's been widely reported that the film will see the Lamberts' overarching story come to a close, which is fitting seeing as it ties so much into the legacy of the franchise. If anything, it only makes us more excited to see it, as we're now less sure how everything will play out. It's a sign of a healthy franchise to see it having one eye looking back at the past and another at the future. But at the end of the day, we're sure it'll give us plenty of reasons to scream here and now. Catch Insidious: The Red Door. The final chapter arrives exclusively in movie theaters July 7th.